Hey, man. So, a bunch of stuff going on today. We've got Wes S with us, all the way from Texas. We'll talk about it in a second. But the topic today is bug out networks versus bug out location. This is not my idea. I hate name dropping. It always sounds like I'm trying to ride this gentleman's coattails, but the truth of the matter is I really am. Pastor Fox had a bug out location video on his Patreon. I kind of raised some questions in my mind, so I talked about it in a video. He graciously pointed something out to me in a comment and inspired a whole new video. So Wes S is going to talk with us about it because this is kind of a unique situation. So Pastor Fox didn't use this phrase, but he kind of was talking about a bug out network versus a bug out. My problem with the bug out location, and you can watch that video, we might even be able to link to it if we have the technology, was bug out locations don't seem like they work for me. Can't afford to own one, don't have the time to secure one or improve one, and I didn't see the point. Pastor Fox gently pointed out that the alternative is maybe a bug out network, where you don't have to have your own location. You have, in this case, for this purposes of this video, Wes S, has a location where we have a pre-arranged agreement where if I have an emergency, I go to him. If he has an emergency, he comes to me. It's a very simple idea. I don't know why I had to have someone point it out to me. You actually are working on this with some folks yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's the same thing. It stems back from the same name we're not going to drop, but Pastor Joe talked about this a long time ago, and it's another guy that we're going to drop his name is SOS, Step One Survival. He is the reason me and the guy got together. It's Rob and me, and we've been talking, and it makes sense to have another family or group of families that you talk to, that you visit with, that aren't right across town, that gives you an option geographically to escape any given scenario. And that's what basically what we're down to is if his county blows up, he runs to my county. If my county blows up, I can run to his county. And we're trying to get more people involved. That's why I'm here. If my state blows up, I'm trying to come up with a new state.
And that raises the question, how many of these, you can almost call them waypoints, I guess, or I don't know what you call them, but like you can't just have just one. I can't just say, well, if something happens here, I'm running to Wes S's house. That's, how many hours did it take you to get here?
It's like a 12 or 13 hour drive, but it takes, if you walk it down the highway, it would be 17-day hike.
That maybe doesn't fit every scenario. Maybe you just need a couple days. I don't know. That's why I'm thinking network, a bug out network. The problem, now there's a bunch of problems that come up for me. First off, you got to really have this thing kind of organized. What are you showing up? If you show up at my house, what do you have to have before I help you? Because if you show up at my house with nothing, can I justify taking away from my family? And with us as believers, that kind of is a whole different question for us. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm not even thinking about it clearly, because as Christians, I don't know if we could turn each other away.
But see, there has to be that, you have to figure that in, and if you've networked, and we're still in the early stages of this. I mean, we talked about it not enough. I miss you, Rob. If you've got to work it out, and that's why you go to meet and greets and you talk to people and you email and you text and you talk on the phone, because you need to set up boundaries. We had a mutual assistance group, and we opted out of the mutual assistance group because it boiled down to the other side of the mutual assistance group. What was theirs, and what was ours was everybody. Yeah. And that doesn't work. Now,
communism never works.
If you've made a group or an agreement with somebody, the deal is if you're bugging out, they have to understand that you can't bring everything. But in knowing that you've made an agreement with that person, why haven't you send them and say, okay, I'm going to trust you. Get some people you can trust. I just sent you $100, brother. Go down and buy me $100 worth of beans and rice. Put it in the basement. Yeah. It's not that hard. You can do it online. You don't even have to drop it in the mail.
Or even if someone said, all right, here's some indication to you or evidence to you that I'm prepared to bring my beans and rice with me, sort of a trust but verify system. And I don't know what the right, I could see people saying, well, I don't know that your location is where I would need to go. You might need, I could imagine, I can see like needing 8. That's why I'm thinking network. You might need, 4 cardinal directions, a close option, a medium range option, and maybe the long term option. Now we're at 12, and maybe you can't afford to pre-stage stuff at every option, but maybe the network has to say, all right, we need to see a picture of you with a couple of buckets of beans and rice that we know you can bring with you, so you're not.
You see, but that's the thing. In order for this, what we're trying to do with the connections and stuff to work, is the lone wolf mentality has got to die. We've got to kill that dog right out of the deal. If you're trying to lone wolf it, if you've got 5 people, that's still lone wolfing it. If there's 5, this is our mag and this is what we're doing. You're still 5 people against 700 billion or whatever.
7 billion.
You're not gonna win. You ain't got that many bullets.
Yeah.
You can't reload that fast.
Yeah.
You have to have trust. That's why you work on it now. Why society is standing. You make the friends. Instead of going to Disney World on vacation, you go to the revolting mansion.
There's another aspect to this. The men in this movement are not weak men. You come to my house, you're going to be welcome here, but I'm going to expect to still be the master here. I'm going to be in charge. It seems like there has to be some sort of system set up where, just to avoid conflicts. Suddenly you've got 2 dominant men with their families in the stressful situations in close proximity, or more, more, maybe 3 or more. It seems like, as important as anything else, is a system set up where there's some sort of governance system set up where, hey, you're at this guy's location, here's how conflicts are resolved, here's the hierarchy, the chain of command. Because I could see that going south really fast when you've got some dominant, for me, a man being possessive is not a bad thing. A man, in his cave, in an emergency, wanting to assert his domain. You got another man coming in a really bad situation, trying to protect his family. This sounds stressful. This sounds like it sounds like there could be a lot of potential for conflict. Seems like that, almost as much as anything else, needs to be resolved beforehand. Hey, how do we handle these complex relationships that are taking place in this complex situation?
That is actually really simple, and without calling out denominations, me and Rob are on 2 different sides of the fence. Okay, but there's one thing that binds us together in the fact that we know there's an ethical code of conduct contained within the book. My house is my castle. He is my guest. When he comes into my castle, it remains my castle, but he, as well as his family, becomes my responsibility. Not my duty, but he becomes part of my household. He doesn't come in and get to take over the household, and when I go to his house, I don't get to go to his house and take over the household. It's you, as a man or a human in general, you have to set it in the deal that you treat people the way you would want to be treated.
Yeah. It seems to me as though that really needs to be formalized, because when the time comes and you've got to resolve conflicts, you've got to have a system in place to resolve conflicts when things are emotional, when tempers are flaring, when people feel like their families are in danger. Talk about just resource allocation.
Right.
My children are starving. You didn't bring all your stuff. But if you had come to my house, you wouldn't have brought all your stuff. I could just see big problems arising if there's not. I don't want to say a system of governance, because I'm almost a sovereign citizen. I kind of believe no one has authority in a man's life or his home but him.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be a big deal with this other man coming in with a family that he is the sole authority for. He may be at my home, but I have no right to talk to his wife or his children or interfere, and yet here he is in my home, or me in his home, you know, there's going to be conflict, or at least potential for conflict. And for me, that would be the first thing I would want to see set in place. You know how are you going to handle those human interactions? And you may be right. I mean, that might be the way to do it. I haven't thought about it.
You just have to. I mean, you get together, you learn each other's thoughts and stuff. I've watched your videos enough to know that this is your house. I'm not going to step on no line, and it's real easy. I walk on lines all the time. Y'all know me. I walk on the line, but because you have to respect the people. Don't group up. Do not make an agreement with. Do not make an alliance with someone that you don't respect. Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it with somebody who doesn't respect you.
If I was talking to a believer, we might use the phrase "Don't be unequally yoked." You know,
yeah.
I mean, you can't live in a close relationship with someone who's not on board with the major philosophies of life. You know, I don't want to use the Sabbath because we're in a little bit of trouble about the Sabbath right now, but I mean, we'll go ahead and use it. You know, if I believe very strongly that work cannot be done on the Sabbath, and someone else believes very strongly that work can't be done on Sunday, you know, we may not jive. You know, if there's a lot of work to be done. I don't know. That's just an example off the top of my head. But
you could just handle it like me and just take both days off.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just. I'll go down to Myrtle Beach until this thing blows over.
There you go.
Our Bug Out network is going to be centered around the vacation spots. So we want to hear from people at Myrtle Beach, Pensacola Beach, Galveston. Who else?
Oh, I kind of like the Fort Myers area down there.
Fort Myers is nice. We need someone in the mountains too. We need some people in Pigeon Forge and Denver or something. Somewhere nice. We want to hear from people with chateaus and chalets.
Yeah, we need somebody with a big ski resort up there in them big Rockies.
Yeah, and butlers. Yeah. And maids in those little black and white uniforms with the feather dusters.
And the vineyard thing, because I like wine a little bit.
I'm not a wine guy, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I can deal with it.
We'll do hard apple cider.
Hard apple cider, I'm on board.
Okay.
I'm on board. So we've got, you know what, we've just solved all these problems. We need, our Bug Out network needs extremely wealthy people.
Yes.
That's our Bug Out network.
Send us our dollar, or send us your dollars, and we promise to spend them well.
Yeah, we will buy you buckets of beans and rice in exchange for us being able to bug out in your chalets and chateaus when the time comes. This is brilliant.
That's actually.
I
wonder if we could sell that.
You know what? You probably could. You could probably write that up in a way that someone would go for it. Yeah. I'll come help you plant your beans. I'm not in that chalet, but 3 months out of the year anyway. There you go. So Bug Out location is not this piece of property you own and you control, and it doesn't have to be. It can be. And you stock and you're responsible for it in some other place. Because you face it, that's really limited and very uncertain to be useful if you ever need it. And a use of a lot of resources that you probably need somewhere else. But a Bug Out network, that makes a lot more sense to me. But it sounds like it's a lot more work beforehand. It might be easier to stock and prepare one location than to build those relationships and those networks.
And that the reason I'm not even going to try to have two locations, a friend, and people know, they've seen the deal about it, $40,000 worth of preps in his secondary location. They walked in with a chainsaw and literally cut the floor out around all of his safes and carried the safes out. They took the chainsaw to the front of the house. They emptied the man out. You cannot, I don't care how nice your security is, if there's not somebody living there, it's Wally World with the front door unlocked.
Yep. Yeah. We had a guy, David Burton, he had $7,000 worth of prep stolen. They recovered most of it, but, I mean, it just goes to show his Bug Out location is not secure. And it had a 6-foot-high fence around the whole thing.
Well, my ideal location we were talking about earlier, some crop duster knows it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this age of satellites and Google Earth. Anyway, we've probably gone long. Formalize
15 minutes.
What's that?
15 minutes.
Oh, we went way long. Folks, man, we appreciate you. This is an important topic. You know, I always say we're going to talk about things more in the future, and I never do. Haven't talked about the militia in a while. We haven't talked about Man Up in a while. There's all sorts of things I never follow up on. The Fire Without Spark video I've never followed up on. Hopefully we're going to follow up on this Bug Out Network thing. It's an important idea, and lots of people are talking about it. This is certainly not exclusive to this channel, but the light bulb finally went off for me, and it was interesting to know Wes was working on something similar. So there you go. We appreciate you, man. Thank you.
God bless you.